Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar, 6 SEO and PR Steps to Scale Your Startup. As a very quick note, we will be recording this session. We'll be sending it out to everyone that signed up. So let's get on with the show. My name is Rudy Davis and I'm the Senior SEO and Content Manager here at Publicize. I've been working in the SEO industry for around 10 years and I manage the SEO for Publicize as well as providing SEO support and advice to many of our startup-focused clients. So I'm really happy to be hosting this webinar today to share what I consider to be 6 of the best PR and SEO tips that anyone can do. Just a bit about Publicize before we begin. If you haven't heard of us, we're a specialist PR agency for startups and growing businesses. We create strategies that combine both PR and SEO to ensure our clients win media coverage that gives them the most impact and exposure for their brands. And if you're interested in learning more about this and more about what we do, you can check out the resources that we will share in our chat section. But for now, let's get on with the webinar. So today, we'll be talking about how you can combine both PR and SEO to deliver maximum benefit to your startup or growing business. We're running this PR and SEO specific webinar, mainly because we find a lot of companies that we work with are really keen to discover how they can make better use of their PR to also help improve their SEO. And to fully answer that, I'm going to be running through the following today. So firstly, a bit on the theory, so how exactly PR and SEO is connected. Then I'll move on to the practical, and these are where the 6 steps are. So I'll talk about aligning content strategies, how to do media monitoring, guest posting, do's and don'ts, winning press mentions with backlinks, how and when to use press releases for SEO, and making the most of your content. So that'll be the first 30 minutes. Then in the second half of the webinar, I'll be joined by Alejandro Gonzalez, who's an SEO consultant, speaker, and trainer. And between the two of us, we'll be having a question and answer session. So any questions that come to mind throughout the webinar, just post them in the chat and we will then get to them in the second half of the webinar. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the theory. So how exactly are PR and SEO connected? Well, let's just look at this at a high level for a moment. So in its purest sense, SEO is how you improve your website's organic rankings. And very, very broadly speaking, there's 2 kind of broad areas that you need to hit to do this. You need relevance, which is to say your content needs to answer the user intent behind the search. And you need authority. So you need plenty of websites linking to your website, although there are obviously many other factors involved, but at a very high level, that's how we can describe SEO. And then on the PR side, this is the process by which you manage your image with the public. And you achieve this by, amongst other things, generating positive media coverage and managing what is being said about you. So to succeed with SEO, you need great content, such as blogs and guides on your website, and you need high quality backlinks, such as links that you receive from high authority media publication websites. And some of the natural outputs of PR are great content, such as guest blogs and original research, and media coverage and media mentions, often with backlinks included. So you can already see how PR and SEO are very closely interlinked. And if you succeed with one, it makes the other one much more achievable. So now time for the practical. So step 1 is aligning content strategies. And while the term content strategy may sound like a grandiose term for many startups and small businesses, you shouldn't let this deter you. You don't need to intricately map out 12 months worth of blogs, articles, guest posts, and press releases. However, combining your PR and SEO objectives does begin with joining up the dots between your content. And sort of the best way to visualize this is with this infographic we've got here. So as it shows, on the one side, you've got your owned media content. So this is all the content under your own control that you produce on your own website. And here we're referring to things like guides, blog posts, original research, kind of core product or homepage on your site. That then informs your PR output. And that's things such as media monitoring, guest blogging, expert comments, press releases, and all this PR activity then generates backlinks to your own media content, so on and so forth. And you then create a virtuous circle where your own media content, your PR output is supporting each other. So in terms of how you do that at a very broad level, So there's kind of a 5-step process that we would apply here when it comes to combining your own media and your PR output for an SEO benefit. So the first thing, step 1, is thinking about what keywords you want to capture with your website. And you want to think about body keywords that best describe your product or service. And these are short descriptive terms. For example, here at Publicize, we specialize in PR for startups. So some of our body keyword terms are PR companies for startups, PR for startups, and PR agency for startups. Step 2, once you've done that, use a keyword explorer to really research the search market that you're in. A couple of the industry leaders are SEMrush and Moz. They both offer 1-month free trials, which is plenty of time for you to do your research. You'll be able to explore all the related keywords, see the monthly search volume and the difficulty score of each. Look for both, when you're doing this, look for both transactional and informational keyword phrases that are relevant to your product. And again, to use Publicize as an example, transactional keywords in our market are things like PR agency for startups, while informational keywords are things like startup press releases, how to contact journalists, and startup PR strategy. So step 3, once you've done that part of your research, choose the best keywords that came out of this. And you want to aim for keywords in that sweet spot of good monthly volume, but lower difficulty. And the difficulty score is what a keyword research tool will give you based on how competitive it is in that market for each particular keyword. Step 4, you need to think about the type of content you then need to create to capture these keywords. And this part is actually really easy. You just, as a first step, Google each of the keyword phrases that you want to rank for and look at the type of content that's being captured on page 1. Try and categorize the type of content that you're seeing as, be it, are they kind of landing pages that are capturing those? Are they blog posts? Are they evergreen guides? And by categorizing the type of content that each type of keyword is capturing, that just makes it a bit easier for you to start thinking about the type of content you would need to create on your own website to also capture those keywords. And now, step 5, now you've got the basis of an own media content strategy. You need to think about how your PR activity can support this. So a few things you need to start thinking about. Firstly, knowing what keywords you should include in your company description that you use in press releases or that you provide to journalists. So for example, here at Publicize, we always describe ourselves as a PR agency for startups when talking about ourselves to the media. That means there's a good chance if they're just copy and pasting bits of information about us, they'll include those keywords when they're writing about us in the media. Something else you can think about is planning guest posts on subjects related to own media content. This will enable you to place backlinks into your guest blog articles back to your supporting own media content. And you can also think about ways in which you can plan impactful content campaigns, such as original research or data studies, which you can publish on your site and then send out via press releases. Now, I know that's quite a bit of information to take in that I've just gone through, but as I say, we'll be sending a recording of this webinar afterwards, and you can also download our PR and SEO toolkit, which provides a step-by-step guide of everything that's being discussed in this webinar, and there should be a link in the chat section shortly. So that, in a very broad sense, is how you would start to approach combining your PR and SEO content strategy. And so now I'll talk through in more detail some of those techniques I've just touched upon there. So step 2, once you know which keywords you should target, you can then set up your media monitoring. And the first place to start with media monitoring is just set up alerts using Google Alerts and Talkwalker Alerts, and create alerts based on the main keywords that you're targeting that you would have discovered in the previous step. So again, using ourselves as an example, we track keyword phrases such as startup public relations and tech public relations. It's also a good idea to set up alerts for the brand names of your major competitors so you can track the type of media coverage that they're receiving. Of course, media monitoring can get a lot more in depth than this with tools like Hootsuite and mentioned, to name but a few. But really, for initial PR and SEO strategy, these two pieces of software tracking keywords and competitors will suffice. And you'll now have a good overview of what's being reported in your industry and the news that your competitors are generating. And this will really help when thinking about ideas for content, both on your own media, so your own website, and when it comes to PR content as well. So once you've got your media monitoring set up, the next step to consider is step 3, which is guest blogging. And this is also known as guest posting or guest contributions. And this is where you write an article that a third-party publication then publishes. And really, it's beloved by both the PR and SEO worlds, as it's a great way to build your exposure and credibility among your target audience, which is really the central aim of PR, while also earning backlinks from high authority sites, which is one of the central aims of SEO. But you need to make sure you get maximum SEO value from this, you do need to follow a few do's and don'ts. But firstly, just to explain how you get this SEO benefit, here's an infographic that kind of shows you the two opportunities you get to earn backlinks whenever you write a guest blog. So you'll usually get the opportunity to put a backlink to your site in the author byline and another one within the main body of the post. But before you jump into this, here's an infamous quote from Matt Cutts, who was Google's then head of web spam back in 2014. So he said, okay, I'm calling it. If you're using guest blogging as a way to gain links in 2014, you should probably stop. Why? Because over time it's become more and more spammy practice. If you're doing a lot of guest blogging, then you're hanging out with a really bad company. Ouch, right? But as you can see, that was back in 2014. So has guest blogging stopped being good for SEO? Well, to be honest, no, not at all. But the thing that has changed is that quality is now fundamental. And that's both in terms of the guest blogs that you write and the websites that they're published on. Ultimately, in the past, some people would spin half a dozen articles from the same base article and get them published on a bunch of spammy, low authority sites. And it's this approach that this quote is directly talking about, and it's this approach that no longer works. So, to stay on the right side of Google, here are our guest blogging best practices for 2019. Now, the first point, when you look at it, probably seems a little bit counterintuitive. But the first thing you need to bear in mind is that don't guest post just for the sake of earning backlinks. As soon as you start doing that, bad practices can really start to sink in. Now, we're not going to deny that backlinks are a super valuable aspect of guest posting, but you should always view this as the byproduct of writing the guest post. The primary purpose, from a PR point of view, is to establish yourself as a thought leader. So approach every guest blog that you write in terms of how you can demonstrate this, such as the valuable insights you can provide to the reader. Secondly, each guest post that you write has to be original. So don't rewrite variations of the same article to get it published on multiple sites, or submit content that's very similar or the same to content that's already on your own website. This is termed content spinning and can result in a nasty Google penalty. And thirdly, avoid low authority, spammy looking sites like the plague. So when it comes to targeting publications, or where you can get guest blogs published, there's two kind of routes you can take with this. The first is targeting high authority generalist sites. So think of places like Forbes or BuzzFeed or the Next Web. Or the other option is niche publications within your industry, such as trade journals or specialist blogs. And now, while niche publications usually have a lower domain authority score, for a site like Forbes or BuzzFeed, earning a backlink from these sites can be just as good, if not better, as they are often highly relevant to your site. They'll be talking about the types of topics that your site is talking about. And as a rule of thumb, when targeting sites for guest blogging, your first priority should be to target sites with a domain authority score of 65 or above. As a second priority, you could look to target sites with a DA score of 50 to 65. To check this, download the Moz toolbar, which is a free SEO tool. And that'll give you the DA score of any website. And this is an aggregate score of 1 to 100 that tells you how authoritative and trustworthy the website is. So those are the general principles you should always bear in mind whenever approaching guest blogging. But here are some more specific SEO factors to bear in mind when you're actually creating a guest blog. So make sure that the website that you're pitching to features author bios when it comes to guest posts, and which include a backlink to the author's website. And here's a nice example of a recent guest post that I wrote for a third-party publication. Pretty much a perfect byline example there, where it explains who we are and it gives us a backlink back to our website. Then consider that there are two types of backlinks. There's follow and no follow. A no follow backlink passes no value SEO-wise to the website that it's linking to. Therefore, when it comes to guest blogging for SEO, you only want to guest post on websites that offer follow backlinks. And our PR and SEO toolkit provides a walkthrough on how to check this, which again, you can download from the comment section in the webinar chat. And the next point, the consensus of opinion within the SEO industry when it comes to guest blogging is that contextual backlinks, and these are the backlinks that go within the main body of the article, are more valuable than the backlinks within the author byline. So again, consider this when checking which backlinks are follow or no follow within a guest post. And lastly, when it comes to inserting those contextual backlinks, those backlinks within the main body of the article, they have to be editorially relevant. And by that, I mean the content that it links to has to offer some further reading or some further value to the user on the subject that you're talking about. The anchor text, so the part of the text that you've hyperlinked, shouldn't be stuff full of keywords that you're trying to rank for. And again, as a rule of thumb, only kind of place 1 or 2 within an article. Otherwise, you risk upsetting the editor of the website that you're posting it on, or you could be perceived as being spammy. And again, here's an example of a recent guest post that I wrote on behalf of Publicize that was published on a third-party post. And you can see that it's a contextual backlink where I've hyperlinked part of the text. It's not keyword stuff, and it's providing further reading where I'm talking about other factors that you need to bear in mind with press releases and SEO. And so again, our SEO and PR toolkit provides a lot more details on each of these points, which you can download. So the next step is winning press mentions with backlinks. And this is where a journalist or reporter uses you as a source for a story. And specifically what we're talking about here is jumping on breaking news and events in your industry by offering expert comment, opinion, or analysis. If there's breaking news in your industry, and this could be something like a huge merger, a major piece of new legislation, or even a big scandal, journalists will be all over it. But journalists don't want to regurgitate the same old news. They're always on the lookout for a unique angle or original source. And you can provide journalists with that unique angle or source by providing them an expert comment or opinion. And after all, you're going to know your industry better than most. So this is knowledge that you can really use to your advantage. And when a journalist uses you as a source in an article, you'll often receive a backlink. So it's another great PR SEO win-win. And there are, in broad terms, 2 ways you can approach this. Option 1 is what we would class as the proactive approach. This requires you to have, as a first step, media monitoring in place to keep track of what's going on in your industry, as we discussed in step 2. Once you've got your media monitoring in place, you then need to have a list of the main journalists that report on your industry. And we actually have a journalist contact details database that you can download for free from our resource center, which you can find in the comment section of the webinar. And once you've got your media monitoring in place, you'll then be alerted to any breaking news within your industry. So whenever there is a big piece of news that you feel you can provide an expert comment or opinion on, you just need to reach out with your list of journalists, send them a brief email pitch, and if they take you up on the offer, they'll use it as an expert source or a comment. And as I say, you'll often get a backlink because they've attributed a source to you. Whereas option 2 is the reactive approach. And this is signing up to platforms where journalists are looking for expert sources. The market leader in the PR world is Harrow, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. And it's free to use and it's super easy. Once you sign up, you're sent 3 emails a day with a complete list of all the stories that journalists are requesting sources for. Another good platform you could use, or you could use both, is SourceBottle, which is also free. And once you start receiving those emails, you can just keep an eye on them and just respond to any that come through that are applicable to you in your experience. But really, to get the best results, you need to combine both approaches. And as I say, whenever you win a press mention using this method, you'll usually receive a backlink. If you don't receive one, there's absolutely no harm in reaching out to the journalist and politely asking that they include a backlink to you. As after all, it's editorially relevant to do so, as they're attributing a quote to you, so users may want to find out more about you and your company. And here's a really good example of an expert comment. So a client of ours was recently featured in an article discussing the move away from VC funding that many startups are now taking. and they just included them as an expert source talking about their experience of that in the industry, and they included a backlink to their website as well. So step 5 is the thorny issue of how and when to use press releases for SEO. So press releases by themselves offer zero SEO benefit these days. In the past, you could write countless press releases, upload them onto countless wire services, all heavily optimized with a load of backlinks. But as this practice became extremely spammy, most reputable press release distribution services now set backlinks to no follow by default. And meanwhile, Google no longer particularly values backlinks from press release distribution platforms. But you've got to remember that a press release is just a medium. What is important is the message that it contains. You want to announce news that journalists are interested in reporting on, instead of just sending out bland company updates that are just going to get put onto a wire service and be forgotten about. So here are a few ways that you can use press releases that stand a good chance of getting noticed by journalists, which can then generate column inches and articles. The first one is announcing company updates that have relevance and significance to your industry. These in particular have a good chance of getting picked up by trade journals or other specialist publications that just report on your industry and that are very interested in reporting on significant company updates within your niche and within your sector. Secondly, you could look at original research and announcing that via press releases. So any research that sheds new light on a topic, challenges conventional wisdom, or captures the zeitgeist has a good chance of getting picked up by journalists when sent out in a press release. If you publish the full findings on your website and include plenty of infographics, this will encourage backlinks, if they are written up into articles, onto the page onto your site where you first publish those full findings. And another thing that it's always good to explore is what you can do around announcing insights from data analysis. So if you're a business that processes plenty of user data, you can often form countless and interesting narratives and insights from this. And again, if you publish those findings on your own site first, then announce and publicize the fact you have this interesting study via a press release, that will often get picked up by many journalists who will write those into stories and include backlinks to the original source on your website. And here's a really good example of a client of ours that published some original research on their own website and then sent it out via a press release. So this is a company called seniorcare.com, and they commissioned a study into aging in the US and then published all of their findings on their website. So they put on their page some infographics and some key takeaways, and then had a download to the full report. We then wrote up the findings in a press release as a summary and sent this out to all relevant media outlets in their niche. And as you can see from the screenshot, the second screenshot underneath with the Moz toolbar, this page on their website that published the findings has now received 132 backlinks following all the articles that were written about the study's findings. And this is a huge amount of backlinks for a single piece of content to receive off the back of sending out a press release. But of course, the purpose of commissioning the study wasn't just to win backlinks. It was to advance the aims and objectives of this organization. But this is a really great example of PR and SEO working together to help further a business's aims and objectives. For more information on when and how to write a press release and how to send one out, we've got a guide to press releases in our resource center, which again you can find by clicking on the resource center link in the webinar chat. So now for the last step, which is making the most of your content. And by this, I don't mean the outdated practice of content spinning, where you just rewrite the same article or blog post half a dozen times. Instead, I mean using every legitimate means possible to wring every bit of value out of your PR-generated content. So there's a few ways you can do this. So a really great way to do this, and something that more people should be doing, I think they currently do, is syndicating guest posts, where you just republish a complete copy and paste of a guest blog you've had published on another site onto your own site, such as on your blog. Now, some people are wary about doing this because of issues around duplicate content, but as long as you get the permission of the website that published it originally, you set up something called a canonical tag that links back to the original page, so it tells Google it's a copy of a different page, and you clearly state on your page that it's a syndicated version, then you'll be absolutely fine doing this. And syndicating content provides a number of indirect SEO benefits to your site. It enables you to have even more long-form and engaging content across your site. This will increase average session times and average pages per session. These are both important user signals that Google uses to determine the relevance of a website when returning search results. And having lots of content that provides in-depth analysis and discussion around a certain topic will improve your site-wide relevance, which again can help rankings for target keywords over the long term. The next thing you can do is publish any rejected guest articles on your site. So every now and again, you may get an editor that will accept your sort of short paragraph pitch, but then when you actually write the whole draft, for whatever reason, it might just get rejected, and that may happen every now and again. That's always a bit frustrating, but see it as a great piece of content you can then put onto your own site, which can then start capturing keywords on your own site. And finally, with all this PR activity you can do, you're going to slowly start winning media mentions in good webs, in sort of top tier publications or publications that are very strong and relevant within your industry or your niche. And you should really boast about all this media coverage that your PR efforts have secured. This acts as an important trust signal to users. This can lower your website's bounce rate, increase your conversion. And when it comes to Google's user signals, low bounce rates are a really important variable. So again, this can provide another kind of indirect SEO benefit. And here's just an example of how we syndicate guest blogs that we have published on other sites on our own blog post, where we clearly state that it's a syndicated article and where it was originally published. And here's just an example of our As Seen In section, which again, we have on our website as it acts as an important trust signal when users come onto the site. So that's the end of the first part of the webinar. Just before we move on to the question and answer section with Alejandro, if you want to learn more about what was just discussed, download our free PR and SEO toolkit, which you can download by clicking on the link on the comment section. So in one moment, I will introduce Alejandro. He has been working in the SEO industry for over 10 years and has worked with companies of all sizes, including Cars.com and Budweiser. And since 2014, he's been teaching and preaching SEO in public conferences, universities, and academies. Just to kick off before we start answering the questions from the viewers. So just a couple of questions I wanted to ask you to pick your brain a bit with PR and SEO. Is the first one, in your experience, what do you consider to be the most important aspects of PR when it comes to the SEO benefit it can deliver?
Okay, so definitely I will say that PR is one of the most important things when you are link building, when you are doing efforts of link building, because when you have people where you can go to them and ask for backlinks, that will help your SEO in like instant moments. So basically, I would say after you do the first efforts and in on-page SEO, technical SEO, you create some content and you optimize with keywords and all this stuff about on-page SEO. Then you have to start taking advantage of your public relationships. Either if you already have them, it's a great resource because you can just call or email the people with the people that you have the relationships and start to like the things that you were saying. For example, create things together or maybe exchange some links for another kind of services or this kind of things. So when you already have all the things in on-page SEO, technical SEO, you have your content already optimized, and you start building links, one of the most easiest ways is with public relationships. So I would say that's the core of link building.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that answer, Alejandro. And another question I'm really interested in getting your thoughts on are, in your mind, which PR and SEO technique do you think is the most scalable that startups can start doing themselves?
Okay, a couple years ago, I saw a strategy from Clientboast. They are a PPC company, basically. And what they did is they partnership with most of the more recognized companies in the marketing industry, such as Hotspot, I don't know, Lead Pages, Overflip, Espionage. Well, many companies in the marketing field. They partnered with them and they created 25, I think 25 infographic marketing series. I think it was called like that. So they partnered with those companies to create infographics, but they were not only informational as infographics, but they were really educational. So I would say one of the ways to transcend this technique of getting backlinks from infographics is to first do the infographic with educational material, not just informing about things, but educating people. And the thing of this case, of this special case, is that they partnered with those companies, so they took advantage of all the companies together, and everybody was getting something from that, because the people from Hotspot, let's say, they were getting they were being seen from the people, the audience with Lead Pages, for example. So I would say one of the big strategies doing public relationships, it's to partner with the nice companies in your field, create educational material together. So it's gonna be big. I saw the results about this strategy with Clientboast, and it's really good. So that's one of the strategies I will really recommend.
Great, thanks a lot, Alejandro. That's really good insight. I've got a few questions that have been posted throughout the first part of the webinar, which I'll just go through with yourself now. So the first question we got from Bianca, and I can see a few other questions that I think will have a similar kind of answer to this. And she's asking about is posting articles on LinkedIn of any value outside of it. So to my mind, this comes down to the fact that when it comes to posting content on sites like LinkedIn or Medium, those backlinks are going to be set to no follow by default. So in the purest sense of the word, when it comes to a no follow backlink, technical wise, there isn't that link equity being passed to the site that it's linking to. But I'd be interested, Alejandro, in your thoughts on what other benefits there may be around that, in spite of the fact that the backlink will be no follow.
Sure, I will say it won't have any direct impact on the rankings itself, but the thing about no follow links is that Google crawls the links. So it crawls the link and it knows that the link exists and the page that is being linked exists as well. So I would say it's not a nice tool to have impact in the rankings itself. But if you are just starting, for example, with a website and it's not ranking yet, or you just publish a content and you want Google to notice it faster than it does, I would say you can use this kind of resources, going to LinkedIn or Medium or another kind of websites that you can create links for free, let's say. Even though they are not follow, Google will notice that your page or your website exists. So this is the kind of help that those links bring.
Okay, brilliant. That's a really good answer. Thank you. The next question from Marissa, just answering what's the difference between Google Alerts and TalkWalker Alerts. So from our experience of using them here in our PR agency, TalkWalker Alerts just have a higher level of personalization, and they can also give you alerts on Twitter that Google can't. So to get a more rounded view of web and social media, we would recommend using both Google and TalkWalker Alerts. The next question, Alejandro, which I would really like to get your thoughts on, is from Jordan, who's asked how different the guest posts have to be in order not to be penalized for content spinning or to just be seen to be rewriting the same guest post but in different words.
Okay, well, they definitely need to be different in the way you expose all the words. And even if you can, for example, you can call one the 6 ways to scale your startup with PR, and the other one could be called the 5 ways that work for my startup to scale in SEO. So the information could be nearly the same, but it needs to be written differently, definitely, because otherwise Google will notice that it's the same content and it's gonna be not really good for your website. It maybe we penalize or something like that because you are duplicating content, or even though the bot, it could recognize that you are doing this guest posting work. So if you can really get a difference between the blog posts that you are guest posting, it's gonna be better than if you post always the same information.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And the next question, this goes back to the first question about LinkedIn, and it's from Mike. So he's asked, does linking back to content on my Medium blog still providing me with an SEO benefit? So I guess this is where he's talking about guest posting on a third-party publication and then putting some links into his guest blog to his own content, but he's hosted his own content on Medium. So in my mind, this comes to the same issue with, or a similar issue where it's going to be Medium that's going to be accruing the benefit of those backlinks, and none of that value is going to be passed back to the site that's using Medium as its blog. And I see quite a few, particularly startups, kind of using Medium as their sole blog hosting platform, which to me kind of feels like they're constraining their SEO potential when it comes to backlinks by doing that. Do you have any thoughts on that type of trend, Alejandro, where people are using third-party blog platforms like Medium to put most of their own media content onto?
Sure, yeah. The thing with using third-party applications like Medium is that it is exactly what you say. Is you are building the authority for them and not for your website. So, for example, one of the good things of building links in guest post is that you can inherit the authority from the blog post to let's say to a product page or a service page in your website. So it basically helps to ranks better. It helps to rank better the product and services pages. But if you are building that authority to the blog post on Medium, for example, you are giving the authority to them and not to your website. So the recommendation is really to use, for example, any platform, but with your domain. Even you can use Medium. I think you can use your domain with Medium, but the important thing is that you are doing the efforts for your domain and not for a third-party domain. Even though you are using a third-party tool, you can do it, but using your domain is the important thing.
Okay, and when you say you can transfer authority from your blog post to sort of product and landing pages, are you talking about kind of internal linking within your site and passing page authority to other pages?
Yes, I'm talking about internal linking. It basically helps that, for example, if you want to rank a product, let's say SEO services, and you write a post about the best SEO techniques for 2019. So if you get a lot of links to that blog post, then you can link from that blog post to your product or service page. And then it is gonna inherit the authority and it will rank better.
Okay, great. And the next question from Teresa says, what are the best tools to measure a site's credibility? So for me, my kind of go-to tool is the DA score provided by Moz, which I kind of touched upon during the webinar, which just gives you that aggregate score of 1 to 100 on the authoritativeness of the site based on the backlinks that that site is receiving, so both the quality and the quantity of those backlinks. Alejandro, do you have a favorite tool when it comes to measuring the credibility of a site?
I would say I always go to Moz, but in the last days I've been working also with Majestic. Majestic is a very good metric as well because they have lots of info about rankings and linking domains. So the information they give is very accurate. So I would say Majestic is the second one after Moz.
Okay, perfect. And the next question from Trent asks, so what type of content on my site should I link to in a guest blog that I write? So in my mind, and kind of going back to what was discussed in the first part of the webinar, it could be things like original research that you've commissioned, that you then publish the findings on your site. You're then writing guest posts that's talking about the findings from that research. Or it could be other kind of good quality owned media content you have across your blog or on guide pages that talks in a lot more detail about something that you touch upon in a guest post that you're writing. And Alejandro, what are your thoughts on the sort of the best types of owned media content to link through when it comes to the guest blogging and putting contextual backlinks in a guest blog back to owned media?
Okay, I basically agree with you. That's the answer I will give for that.
Okay, perfect. The next question from Rick. I have a publicized package. If I register with SourceBottle and Harrow, will that benefit me? Is there a way to forward the emails the publicized to handle? Rick, I believe that our client services team do use both of those sources on a regular basis to check for any journalist requests that will relate to any of our clients. So that is not something you would need to do. That is absolutely something that we take care of here at Publicize, just as part of the client services that we provide to our clients. So the next question from Ignacio. If I guest blog on a site with a low DA score, but it improves over time, will I get more value from the backlinks? That's a really good question, and the answer is yes. As a site improves its DA score, then the authoritativeness of that backlink coming into your site is going to improve. And that is a good technique where you can look for sites that are starting out that have a low DA score, but you can see it trending upwards pretty quickly. And that is something that a lot of people do look for. And Alejandro, do you have any thoughts on kind of that targeting approach where you're looking for trends where websites are becoming very quickly, very authoritative, where to begin with, it may be much easier to guest post on, to thinking like when TechCrunch first started or something like that, versus trying to get onto those platforms now when they become super authoritative and everyone's chasing backlinks from those sites?
Yes, I've seen many examples like that. That a couple years ago, we were building links for new websites, and we were doing something like that. We were just getting linked from new websites because it was easier, but not even thinking about the future, just because it was easier in the moment. But today, it's really good because those websites now have a bigger domain authority. They were definitely bigger than before. And right now we have those links from those websites. So now we are taking advantage of that, and we are being we are having more rankings and better DA because of those links as well.
Okay. The next question from Laura is, does a backlink in a guest post author byline have to link to the homepage? So, Alejandro, what are your thoughts on that? Should a backlink in an author byline always go to the homepage, or is there value in mixing it up a bit?
Not necessarily. It is very important to mix between the homepage and deep links. Is the website is the name we use for that in SEO. Deep links. So it is important you links you link as well to the product pages, to the blog posts you have on your website as well, and not only to your homepage, because as I was saying before, you can use the authority of the internal pages to inherit it for the homepage or for another blog post or that kind of things. So it is very important to go something like 60-40% or 50-50%, something like that. So it is very important to mix all of them.
And I suppose follow up on that, how do you consider if your site has a kind of a number of landing pages that's trying to capture different keywords, would you think it would be a good strategy to put a backlink maybe every 3 or 4 guest posts that you write to different landing pages on your site within the byline? Do you think there's value to that? That could be a good approach.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, sorry. So do you think so if you've got a website with a lot of landing pages that are trying to capture a lot of longer tail commercial terms, do you think there would be benefit to every time you write a guest post, in your author byline, you put a backlink to a different landing page on your site. You kind of spread out the backlinks across your landing pages. Do you think that's a good method when it comes to trying to build up the authority of those pages?
Yes, I think you have to see 2 things in those scenarios, and one of the things is how many links do you really need to rank for those keywords that you are attempting to rank with the landing pages, and then you will figure out if you really need to do that in this landing page or this other one. And the other thing that you can check is that how many links are you having from external websites to those different pages. You can use, for example, a tool like Cognitive SEO, which will show the distribution on those pages, and then also you can with the same tool, Cognitive SEO, you can check how many backlinks you need to rank for the different keywords you want to rank for with those landing pages. And then you can start to not only think about how to do it in the general terms, but for the specific cases you want to rank, or for the specific keywords you want to rank, then you can see, okay, and right here I need a page authority of this and this, or here I need 12 backlinks to this page to outrank the ones that are ranking right now. So it's basically that you need to study every scenario and define the specific case for the keyword and the landing page you have.
Okay, thank you. That's a really good answer. The next question from Mark, and I think we've kind of gone over this, particularly with your first answer, Alejandro, is there any value in guest posting on a website with no follow links? So you gave a really good answer to that for the first question, so we won't go over that one again, as we know the answer to that. And Mark also asks another question, which is, what is the most effective way to send out a press release? So I'll just answer this one from my kind of PR background. When it comes to sending out a press release that you're trying to get picked up by journalists and written into stories, such as the examples that we went through with original research, it really pays to spend a bit of time finding the specific journalist that you're hoping will write up the story, researching the types of publications you want to get it published in, the journalists working for those publications that write about the type of stories that this press release relates to, finding their email address, which is easier to do than you probably think, using some of the tools online or some of the guides in our resource center, and then just sending a brief email with a brief summary of the press release, include the press release within the email, and just send it out to each of those journalists that you're hoping will write up your story. So when it comes to a press release where you're trying to get it written into a story because you're announcing something big, it's always better to go the direct approach rather than putting it onto a wire service where you'll probably get less chance of getting picked up. So the next question from Ben, he said, given that there's a lot that Google penalizes for and their algorithms change over time, how do we keep up to date with changes, and should we be looking to pull down content at times? So that's a pretty interesting question there. So Alejandro, what are your thoughts on Ben's questions around Google's penalties, algorithm changes, and how we keep up to date with what Google are always doing and always changing.
Okay, so basically most of the algorithm updates that Google does is for improving user experience. What they don't want is people trying to manipulate their ranking pages. So basically, I would say the most easiest way to keep up to date and not getting a penalization from Google is not trying to do tricks. It's forgetting about all the SEO tricks, and doing a consistent strategy based on technical optimization for sure, on-page optimization, link building with the kind of techniques we are talking about today, but forget about all the tricks. Forget about, for example, hiding keywords, getting backlinks from websites that are not in your field and that are not contextual of your topic. And that's basically what I will say. Forget about all the tricks and just build your strategy based on creating the best experience for the users you can. And then Google will notice that you are doing the things not only for the rankings, but also for the users, and you will keep up to date.
Okay, thank you for that answer. That's a really good answer. The next question from Marissa says, what's the difference between syndicating content well versus making edits to other content and reposting, which you said to avoid? So what are your thoughts on that one, Alejandro? I know you've already kind of touched on it, but when it comes to syndicating content or just slightly editing content and posting it?
Okay, yeah, so there is an important thing with syndicating content, and it's the thing about duplicated content, yeah? So if we are, for example, posting content party websites that is the same we have in our website, it is important to use the canonical URL so we can let Google know that the content is posted everywhere, in another website. Or also in the other case, for example, if we are getting content from other websites to post in our website, it is important to use also the canonical URL so we don't get penalizations from duplicated content.
Okay, thanks for that answer, Alejandro. The next question I have from sorry, I think that's a repeated question there. So the next question I have from Ben is, to what extent is it worth paying a website to publish a guest blog? Now, this is a really good question, and this is something that a lot of clients ask us as well. So, Alejandro, I'd be interested in your thoughts to begin with when it comes to whether or not you should ever pay a website to then publish something of yours or to give you a follow backlink.
Okay, so I had a really bad experience back in 2012 when I was doing SEO for a tech news website, and we were buying a lot of links from many websites, and we got a penalization from Google, and all the rankings went down because of that. But I would say it was because what we were doing was we were buying links from websites that were only selling links for business. So it was like a link farm. It's called something like that, like a link farm. So I would say if you wanna buy links, you really have to have a good strategy and look for websites that not only are selling links for business, but that they will create a good content where they can link to your website. So I will say that's the most important thing, to not only buy the links for the sake of buying it, but really take care of where are you going to buy the link. I will say that's my answer.
Thanks, Alejandro. It's really interesting to get your point of view from kind of a strict SEO field, whereas in PR, from our point of view, I guess we would, because our purpose is to kind of get earned media that's gonna, as the primary purpose, raise the company's profile, make them seen as a authority on their subject, an expert in their industry. So when it comes to that, we always like to place them in places like Forbes or Entrepreneur or the Next Web, where it's very much the value of what that person can provide to their readers rather than paying for links. But it's always very interesting to hear the other side, where when it comes to SEO, when the objective is just to improve the authority of the site and the different approaches that those two fields kind of take. The next question from Eddie, and this is specifically for you, Alejandro, and he said, regarding content, what are some actions you are taking right now that you think most people are missing?
Okay, so that is a good question. Let me think a little bit. I would say internal linking is one of the most important things people is missing right now. Right now, most of the people are creating content. They are building external links, but they are forgetting about creating internal linking. I have an experience from 2 years ago that it's working right now as well. We just created 5 or 6 contents in a website, editorial content, and we posted them just like that, and nothing happened. We built a couple of links, and it started to rank in the 8 or 9 position, and then we use this technique of creating the internal linkings between all the blog posts. And after we implemented that, just like 3 days after we did that, the rankings started to boost. We went from the 8th position in some keywords to the 3rd one, and in some keywords to the 1st positions. So I would say that's the most important thing that we need to take advantage of right now, and it is internal linking.
Great. Thanks for that, Alejandro. That's a really good answer. And we have similar experiences here where we've interlinked a lot of the content on the Publicize website. Within a few weeks, we've really shot up the rankings just by doing some interlinking. So it's really interesting. We've had similar experiences with that. So Alejandro, that brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much again for joining us to answer those questions. And it feels like we discussed quite a bit on the topic of SEO and PR. And apologies again for that slight problem at the start of the webinar.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and I am just here whenever you need any SEO related question to solve. So I'll be here.
Great. Thank you very much, Alejandro.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, thanks everyone for staying tuned for our webinar. I hope that was helpful, and it's gone through the main steps of how PR and SEO can help support one another, and that we were able to answer all of the questions that you had at the last half of the webinar. If anyone does have any questions that they didn't have a chance to ask, feel free to email me directly. My email address is rudy@publicize.co. That's RUDI@publicize.co. And if anyone is interested in receiving a PR assessment from us for a limited time only, anyone that we sign up for a PR package with Publicize will receive a free SEO audit worth $600, and you can sign up for our assessment on our website using the contact us form. So thanks everyone for listening to the webinar, and we hope you join us again for the next webinar that we host.